Welcome to Act Like a Man podcast. This is episode 4. My name is Dennis C. I am the editor-in-chief and founder of actlikeaman.org. And welcome to Act Like a Man podcast. This is episode number 4 already. And we are going to talk about sex and purity for our lunchtime subject. Yo. And this is going to be fun. I've received a number of questions on sex. Not a lot, maybe because it's about sex and a lot are afraid to know for them to be recognized. Pero come on, everyone. Alam naman natin, it's a topic that's very much talked about. But before we jump off to our episode on sex and purity, just a reminder, I am still giving away, I think I have 5 tickets left or 6 tickets left of Build Your Future. What you have to do is after this one, please comment on my YouTube channel, Act Like a Man Philippines, for Act Like a Man Philippines, and then comment on lessons you've learned sa ating podcast. Oops, wait. Ayusin ko lang. Yeah, wait. Ayun. Okay. So ulitin ko lang, no? I still have 5 tickets for Randall Youngson's Build Your Future. It's this coming Saturday already. Make sure those who will be joining, if you're joining us, make sure that you can go and bring a friend with you since you're going to get 2 tickets with a free book with it. So Build Your Future, just again comment on Act Like a Man Philippines YouTube channel for you to win this prize. And also, since this is going to be a very special episode, we have our sponsor for this episode number 4, Fukuda Appliances, quality beyond expectation. And because Fukuda is such a good company, they're giving away an electric fan, a rice cooker, and a burner for one winner. Okay, who would, again, here's the mechanics. You have to go to Fukuda and write I love Fukuda, or go to your thread and just I love and then tag Fukuda Philippines so that they could see that, and there will be, and comment on my YouTube channel so that we can also check who among you will win a rice cooker, a gas burner, and an electric fan. Grabe naman ang Fukuda. Alright, so you can join that, and we'll be happy to give away those appliances to you. Pang-start din ng pamilya, lalo na pag lalaki ka at mag-aasawa ka, kailangan mo ng rice cooker, ng electric fan, at ng gas burner kung wala kang stove. Yun yung maliit na lang. Hindi po yung malaking stove. Wala po atang ganun yung Fukuda. Alright, so again, we go back. Please, for the Fukuda, okay, kailangan mo maglagay ng I love Fukuda sa Fukuda Facebook, tag them, and also if you could put some of your questions there, no, mas high ang chances na ikaw pipiliin kung mananalo ng Fukuda appliances, right? And also our Build Your Future, just go to Act Like a Man Philippines YouTube channel and comment on the lessons you've learned in this episode. Hello, Bonky Toings. Hello, Frisbee Angel. Hi, Randy Lorico. All right. Okay, now, let's start. Now, it's very important when it comes to sex and purity that we understand that a lot of it is really in our minds. Okay, I think the biggest sexual organ we have is actually our mind. That's why the Bible tells us, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And mindset about sex, or our worldview about sex, would affect the decisions we're going to make when it comes to purity and when it comes to a relationship with your boyfriend, with your girlfriend, or with your friends, and also with your spouse. A wrong mindset about sex would lead to a very boring and empty sex life, right? And I'm talking to both singles and married, right? Of course, singles, you wait till marriage before you have sex, or else you commit premarital sex. And so, if you have a wrong mindset about sex, what happens is, yung effect niyan sa relationship mo, magkakaroon ka rin ng very boring and dry sex life. But if you have a healthy mindset and worldview about sex, it leads to the best and great sex ever, which we wrote in our book, Kami ni Tammy, Why Settle for Good Sex When You Can Have Great Sex. Right? And there's two extremes in our culture today when it comes to sex. Number one, especially for Christians and especially for the church people, we don't want to talk about sex. It's never mentioned, it's never preached, it's reserved for the Holy of Holies. It's a topic that nobody wants to touch, but a lot of people are struggling with it. And a lot of people are committing sex, whether married or singles. Ibig sabihin, it's a regular human activity, but in some ways, a lot of Christians are very silent when it comes to this topic. Or if kung meron naman silang sasabihin about sex, it's all a joke and it's never that serious. We never go into deep conversations about sex, which is for me a very unhealthy way of dealing with the subject matter, and that's why I have this topic. And that's why a few of you only ask questions because it's the topic of sex and you feel like dapat di na pag-uusapan yan. But really, in reality, a lot of who you are, God created us as sexual beings. And a lot of who we are is because of how God created us. Or number two naman, yung extreme, yung isa hindi pinag-usapan, and mostly it's from the church people, we don't talk about it. The other extreme naman is we're too vulgar about it. Whether you look at social media accounts or sex teachers or sex gurus or even people, sexperts in the radio, they're very vulgar about sex and they give a lot of very humanistic philosophies and worldviews about sex. Okay, not everything they say is right or wrong, but many of it would be leaning towards a different worldview. We're too vulgar about it. Some people are even proud of their sexcapades and they freely talk about it in their podcast or in a radio show. So you've got two extremes and we've got to find the balance of being able to talk about this and not really being shy when it comes to this topic. Right? Now, some lies we hear about sex in our culture today is you can have, number one is that you can have sex without consequences. Right? Na okay lang mag-sex, wala namang nasasaktan. Well, hindi po totoo yan. You can, every time you have sex, there will always be consequences. And when I say consequences, again, it's not all negative. Some would have positive consequences. If you have a healthy sex life with your spouse, for sure there will be positive consequences on your marriage. But you can't, but the world is telling us you can have sex without any consequence. Not true, right? In psychology, there's what they call the imprint. Ito rin po yung pinauso nung ano bang vampire movie yun, yung si Jacob at saka si I forgot. Alright. Twilight, yung Twilight, yeah. Sa Twilight, 'di ba, meron doon yung concept ng imprint. That's actually a psychological term where your first experience nagkakaroon ng imprint sa iyo, no? It in some ways defines you and tells you how it looks like. Like an example would be not on sex, alright, but on vinegar, suka, no. Hindi po ako, I don't put suka in my chicharon because of an imprint. Because when I was 6 or 7 years old, I remember a bottle of vinegar fell off and it went to my shirt, and everybody laughed and everybody was saying how stinky I was, and it left a very negative imprint in me. I remember at the age of 7 saying, I won't ever eat vinegar. So up until now, I don't put vinegar in a lot of things that I eat. Not that I don't like vinegar and not that vinegar has a stronghold on me. It's just that imprint that I had when I was young. So I've gotten over it, but then I don't like vinegar as much as others because of an imprint. So it's the same way with sex. A lot of men today, their first imprint on sex could be a porn or sex with somebody without any commitment or casual sex with someone. And what happens is when that first experience happens, nagkakaroon ka ng imprint ngayon. Yan yung pinaka-memorable sa'yo, right? According to psychology. And so when you get married and you start having sex with your spouse, yung imprint na yun could dictate or could give you a lot of maraming consequences yan sa utak mo and how you're now dealing with your sex life. Right? It's the same way with women. A lot of women, they give into sex because they don't want to lose their boyfriend. And their boyfriend would say, if you really love me, have sex with me. And so they have sex with their boyfriend, but then they lose that person. And hindi sila nagkatuluyan, and the boyfriend never really loved them. The boyfriend just want to use them sexually. And so what happens is, when the boyfriend left, and the woman gave up her virginity, yung imprint, the woman's imprint when it comes to sex is that I've given what you've asked, but I got nothing in return. I feel used. And so many women that we've also counseled, and many women that we've heard their stories, they are not active sexually when they're married because of the imprint that they have that only God can deliver them from. Right? So hindi po ibig sabihin na yung imprint, hopeless ka na. There's still hope. That's where the grace of God comes in. Right? So you can't say that you can have sex without consequences. There will always be consequences. And some consequences will be pregnancy, a child, di ba? A lot of single moms, iniwan kayo. Those are consequences, some positive, some negative consequences we can have because of our sex life, right? And our view of sex. Second lie we hear about sex is that you can have sex without intimacy. Sex lang. Wala lang. Yun lang, nakita lang kita, and then we committed sex without any intimacy. Now, this goes against a lot of studies and even biblical principles that the two become one flesh when they commit sex. Sex does that. That's the power of sex. And that's why God told us to not defile the marriage bed, because sex unites both husband and wife. It makes the marriage stronger. There's a bond that you have. Right? I remember there was this trailer that I was watching, and it was Natalie Portman shouting, "Why can't we just have sex?" Right? And maybe a lot of people they think that way, na parang, but di na lang tayo mag-sex lang, wala nang attachment, right? But is it really possible? Again, secular movies would show you, scripture will tell you, you can't have sex without intimacy. Right? In 1 Corinthians 6 verse 16, do you not know that he who is joined to a prostitute becomes one body with her? For it is written, the two will become one flesh. So you see, it's even a scriptural principle na pag nakipag-sex ka, nagkakaroon ng ties, no, with that person, not just physically but emotionally and spiritually. Sexuality kasi is designed to be an expression of love, okay? Not love itself. Okay? As such, it's meant to follow the process of knowing somebody and then loving a person at a more deeper level of committing your heart, mind, and soul to that person. Now, so you can't just have sex without any attachment, right? That's gonna be hard. And so when Tammy and I wrote the book, Why Settle for Good Sex When You Can Have Great Sex, we were trying to answer what is the number one problem people have when it comes to sex, or what is the secret to having a great sex life, right? And we came up with this, right? Going through the scripture, let me just open the book in page 21, right? First, we look at 1 Corinthians 13, and there you would see a good definition of what love is, right? It says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It's not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. So, we see here that love is not for me. Love is for me to give away. If you live to please yourself, you will become insensitive to other people. Living for yourself is actually a sign of selfishness and immaturity. Now, so for any relationship to work, a man has to learn not to live for himself, but instead to live for God and for others. The same principle applies to sex. It means you don't enter sex thinking about yourself and your needs. The goal is not to pleasure myself, but to pleasure my spouse. And in that process, we actually get to enjoy each other. It becomes a win-win for us. And so, if you look, that the greatest enemy of a dry, boring sex life, right, is selfishness. Now, for the singles who are here listening, if you're single, you're not married, you're not committed to someone in marriage, and you're forcing or you wanting to have sex with somebody, that is the very heart of selfishness. Kaya medyo selfish ka, ibig sabihin wala ka namang commitment, and you're trying to create ties physically, emotionally, spiritually with a person without that commitment of marriage, without entering into marriage. And so it doesn't work. And that's why it's all chaotic. And that's why we look today and there's a lot of sexual diseases around. There's a lot of kids without dads because of this thinking that all I want is to pleasure myself and not really commit to know and love deeply someone, heart, soul, and mind. In short, hindi po killjoy si God kung bakit may mga batas na ayaw niya mag-sex tayo before marriage. It's for our own benefit. He loves us so much that He created it to be in the bounds of marriage. Right? I love what Tim Keller wrote. He says, the gospel shows us that sexuality is to reflect the self-giving of Christ. He gave Himself completely without conditions. So we are not to seek intimacy sexually, but then hold back control of our lives. If we give ourselves sexually, we are to give ourselves legally, right? Marriage contract, socially, personally, utterly. Sex is only to happen in a totally committed, permanent relationship of marriage through Christ's transformation of us. That ideal is somewhat realizable even between two sinners. You don't have to be a Christian to understand that the healthiest way to have sex is in the context of marriage. In Mark 10 verse 45 it says, Jesus came not to be served but to serve and to give His life as a ransom for many. And I think that's the heart of great sex, being selfless, learning how to serve. It's not just for me, it's for the other. Yung binibigay mo ba yung sarili mo sa asawa mo, right? Matthew 23 verse 11 to 12 says, the greatest among you shall be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humble, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. It's about serving, right? It's about giving of myself to others. And now this is really a good time to reflect, no? Even upon our own hearts. Selfish ba ako? Yeah. Sa relationship ko ngayon sa girlfriend ko, selfish ba ako? Inisip ko ba lagi sarili ko? Even as a husband, right? Selfish ba ako? Yung wife ko ba exists just to fulfill my sexual needs without me giving back anything in return, or without me really serving my spouse? Again, this is it's interesting to note that our sexuality lies very much in what happens in our heart. Ano bang nasa puso natin, no? Kasi pag hindi tama puso mo, lalabas yan sa sexual life mo. No, pagka selfish ka, lalabas din yan. Kung it's all about you and all about you and me, my marriage is about me, fulfill my needs, serve me, sex me, if it's all about you, what happens? The person feels used, the other person feels used, the other person feels devalued because it's not mutual. Pagdating kasi sa marriage, mutual fulfillment and mutual sacrifice yan. If you read Tim Keller's book, Meaning of Marriage, it just shows to us that it takes two, right? And to make it work, it takes three. You need to have Christ and a change of worldview when it comes to sex. Now, some questions about sex. Number one, any practical tips on guarding your thought life? Okay, first off, again, it's an awareness of how selfish or selfless we are. Every time I lust, it's really my selfishness. It's how I want to fulfill myself and how I want to gratify my lust, okay, my desire. So good to be aware of that. that every time I try not to think of my thought life and try to think of sexual thoughts that's sinful, I'm not thinking about others, I'm thinking just about myself. What has helped me in the past was this book, Every Young Man's Battle, where he talks about the Sumo Sex. And he says that sexual temptation is like fighting a sumo wrestler. Nakakita na ba kayo ng sumo wrestler? Right? Google nyo mga sumo wrestler. No? And they're really big, right? Japanese wrestlers. No? Pagka nagda-WWE, kasi Yokozuna yon, no? Malaki. Right? Really big. And there's no way for us to defeat a sumo wrestler. And in sexual sin, it's something like that. The only way to defeat the sumo is to starve the sumo. Is to starve your sumo sex drive. Right? Pag naka-hyper sex drive yung sumo mo, yung lakas ng sex drive mo, sabi niya, learn how to starve it. How do you starve it? Alright? Again, it's guarding your thought life. So kung struggle mo, internet porn, have someone that you're accountable with, and tell them, kamustahin mo ako at days I feel like I'm struggling. I text somebody and tell that person, friend, tomorrow, can you ask me if I've went into internet porn, so that I just need to starve my sex drive, my sumo sex. I call it my sumo sex. No? So if yung mga triggers mo, right? Maybe it's a website, it's a book, it's a romantic novel that you're reading that tries to put a lot of imagination in your mind, burn that, okay? Throw it away. Try to starve your sumo. And you can only do this through the power of the Holy Spirit, right? Iba kasi nung time ko, nung single pa ako, walang internet nun. Mahirap actually mag-internet nun kasi dial-up pa kami. So, mahuhuli ka talaga pag nag-porn ka dahil yung image ang tagal mag-upload, no? But ngayon kasi mabilis sobra. It's in our fingertips. It's in our mobile today. And so, I'd like to encourage you to put in some accountability apps, maybe in your website. X3 Watch is good. Though they've changed interface, or get somebody accountable, right? Maybe somebody in church that you trust, and somebody who can help you. Hindi rin someone who's struggling, no? Kasi mahirap naman, para kayo nag-gym pero dalawa kayo sumo wrestler, right? I think you need somebody who's more experienced and who's more mature in that area to help you be accountable. Right? And once you starve the sumo, what happens? The sumo becomes thinner, and now you can defeat that sumo. No? Meron din kami tinatawag yung bouncing off the eye. Pag may nakita ka, di ba, like ngayon, like mamaya magla-lunch na ako in a few minutes, no? Paglakad mo, ang daming babae, yung mga suot, minsan, tempting naman talaga, no? And maybe for some, that's their standard already. And we can change it. I can approach a woman and says, pwedeng palitan mo yung suot mo, right? Kasi natetempt ako. But we can learn how to bounce off our eye, right? Kung yan yung object, then hindi masyado makita sa akin, no? Kasi yung mata ko maliit. Pero kung yung temptation mo nandiyan, it's bouncing it off. Then look the other way. Right? Kung meron pa dyan, then look the other way. Now, kung surrounded ka, ang tanong, ba't ka nandyan? Alright? Baka nasa isang lugar ka na napakaraming temptation. No? So, takbo ka na, tulad ni Joseph. Right? And lastly is to guard my thought life, I need to understand that the one who will fulfill me the most is not porn, it's not a woman, it's not even my wife. It's God who fulfills me. Now this is hard, right? You have to come to that point of saying, God, grabe, ikaw lang talaga mag-fulfill sa akin. Kahit tempted na ako mag-porn ngayon, or tempted na akong tumingin at mag-lust, I understand that when I look there, it will not fulfill me long-term. It might fulfill me short-term, but then the guilt would come and the condemnation would come. And I've got to understand, Lord, ikaw lang talaga yung source ko. And so you go back to God. A greater desire for God than sin. Right? And I think that would help. No? Now, another question here is, how far is too far? Okay, I think this is a single asking question. How far is too far when it comes to touching or sex and diba? Holding hands, pwede ba? Kiss sa neck, kiss sa ilong, kiss sa kilay, okay lang ba yun? Hanggang saan ba pwede? Lips to lips, pwede ba yan? Now, I think the question, how far is too far, might not be the right question to ask. I know where it's coming from, but every time we ask the question, how far is too far, we're actually testing the boundaries. Boundaries are there so that we might feel safe, right? Marami kasi galit sa boundaries. They feel like, parang nakakalimit ng boundaries, no? Nasubukan mo na ba maglagay ng playground malapit sa EDSA tapos walang fence? Sa tingin mo mga anak mo, maglalaro doon, right? And enjoy the playground? I think they won't. They would appreciate if there's a gate or a fence. That's what boundaries would do, no? Sabi nga sa Bible, no? The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Boundaries are healthy. I think there's a good book by Henry Cloud, right, called Boundaries, which would be good for you to read. No? So, when we say how far is too far, what we're actually saying is hanggang saan ko pwedeng i-test yung limit ng boundaries. No? So, hindi rin maganda yon, no, na tinetest mo yung limit ng boundaries kasi baka mas malakas yung temptation kaysa yung sa puso mo. No? Kaya nga si Joseph, alam mo si Joseph nung tinempt yung wife ni Potiphar, maganda kasi yung girl na yun, hindi pangit kaya siya tumakbo, maganda yung girl. Sobrang niyang tempted kaya siya umalis. Biro mo araw-araw sinasabi sa kanya, have sex with me, go to bed with me, every day. Imagine the temptation. But Joseph knew he had to run because if he walked, he'll give in to the temptation. It's the same way with most of us. We've got to learn how to run. Alright? Question is not how far is too far. The question is how far should I be away from the temptation. Right? So good for you kung meron kang girlfriend. Good for you to have conversations like this. Hanggang saan lang tayo? Hanggang saan ba tayo? If you could make a list of good boundaries that you can set, realistic boundaries that you can set together. No? And lastly is the question is views on Christians committing premarital sex. Okay, I think the Bible is very clear. Again, my view doesn't really matter. So, going back, it doesn't matter what my view is when it comes to premarital sex. What matters is how God views it, right? The scripture is very clear that sex is in the context of marriage, not outside of marriage. Every time we commit sex outside of marriage, it's called premarital sex. Sex before marriage. And again, there's a lot of consequences when it comes to having premarital sex tulad ng mga nasabi ko kanina, like the imprint that happens and some having traumatic experiences because of premarital sex. It has actually created more unwanted pregnancies. Though I don't believe in the term unwanted kasi wala naman talaga unwanted. Pag nag-sex kayo, you wanted it. Right? Tama ba ako? Yung iba kasi, aksidente lang to. Hindi yan aksidente. Imposibleng aksidente na nakapag-check-in kayo or nahubad mo yung damit mo. Hindi po aksidente yan. Unless napilitan ka, ang tawag doon harassment or for some, it's actually rape. No, but then for many who would say it was an accident, it was not planned. A lot of pregnancies are actually planned. If you plan to have sex with your boyfriend, then that's a planned pregnancy, right? Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin hindi nag-work yung ginawa naming mga protocol para hindi ako mabuntis. Every time you have sex, that's why we'll always say the safest sex is to abstain from sex if you're single. Right, so again, it's not that healthy if you commit premarital sex. I've discussed it more in my book here, Why Settle for Good Sex When You Can Have Great Sex. Might be giving this away on my next episode number 5 of Act Like a Man next week. So watch out for that episode, which I'll be downloading in Act Like a Man Philippines YouTube channel. Alright, so I think that's it, right? Again, going back, for those of you who would comment in my YouTube channel, Act Like a Man, you'll win a Build Your Future ticket. I'm going to pick 3 more winners for our episode today. Saturday na po to with Randall Tiongson, Gabby Tiongson, RD Abelio, and myself. It's going to be a good learning experience for those who want to build their future. Whether single or married, no? Lalo na mga married na wala pa masyadong plano sa buhay, good for you to get this one. And if I think we have mga 20 tickets left on sale, but then this one I'm giving away for free. McCoy, I'll be giving you my YouTube link, or go to YouTube and type Act Like a Man Philippines and you'll see my channel. Next is Again, for everyone here, our sponsor for this episode is Fukuda Appliances, quality beyond expectation, and they're giving away an electric fan, a gas burner, and a rice cooker. Okay? Para sa mga nagsisimula, lalo na sa kanilang marriage, at para hindi na kayo bumili ng rice cooker, electric fan, at gas burner, please, what you can do is go to the Fukuda, go to your Facebook thread and write I love and then tag Fukuda Philippines. Tag me also, Dennis C or Act Like a Man, so we could see it and we'll be choosing one winner. So again, make it clear yung ating objective, ating contest. Objective ba tawag doon? Ang ating contest rules para manalo ka ng Fukuda. Sa'yo po yung tatlong appliances, no? Teka lang, magma-Mike Enriquez na lang ako. Mga kapuso, no? Ang Fukuda, no? Grabe, beyond quality ang ikang appliance. Grabe. Mismo sa bahay, gamit ko Fukuda. Para manalo ng Fukuda appliance, dapat pumunta lang kayo sa Facebook nyo. Hindi po sa Facebook ng Fukuda. Lagyan nyo lang ng I love Fukuda. At paglagay nyo ng I love Fukuda, itag nyo po ang Fukuda Philippines at itag nyo po si Dennis C para mapili po kayo. Tama po ba? Pasok? Okay, so yun po ang ating rules sa ating Fukuda. Maraming salamat, Fukuda. Thank you so much for sponsoring this. Alright, wala po akong nakuha dyan. No? Gusto lang nila mamigay ng appliances. Alright. Okay, that's about it. Thank you very much for tuning in to Act Like a Man. Also, if you would like to comment on any future topics you'd like to be discussed, please, you can message me on Instagram, on Facebook, or on YouTube, and be glad to be able to discuss some things. Kung meron din po kayong guest na gusto nyong ma-feature ko dito, no? I'll be glad to have them. We'll try to contact the guest that you want. Okay, make sure lang na kilala ko rin yung mga guest na gusto nyo. Yan, si Raymond Dave, courtship na agad. Sumagot na agad, no? Alright, so again, please, PM me. Don't message it here because in 24 hours, nawawala na yung IG live. But I need a direct message from you so that I'll know what topic. Thank you for listening to Act Like a Man podcast. And this is Dennis C, once again, Editor-in-Chief, reminding you to act like a man. God bless you. Have a good lunch, everyone.